Let me tell you something that most people will never figure out until it's far too late. Most people spend their entire lives doing what is easy, what is comfortable, what feels good in the moment, and then they wonder why their life turned out the way it did. They look back at 50, at 60, at 70, and they ask themselves a question that breaks the heart of any wise man who hears it. They ask, how did I end up here? And the painful truth is, they ended up there one undisciplined day at a time. I want to talk to you today about something that will change the entire trajectory of your existence if you let it sink deep enough into your mind and into your soul. I want to talk to you about discipline. Not the kind of discipline that somebody else forces on you, not the kind that comes from a drill sergeant barking orders in your face, but the kind that rises up from within you, the kind that you choose for yourself, the kind that becomes so much a part of who you are that your future self, the person you will become 10 years from now, 20 years from now, looks back at this very moment and says, thank you. Thank you for making that decision. Thank you for holding the line when it was hard. Thank you for choosing what was right over what was easy. That is the theme of everything I am going to share with you today. Be so disciplined that your future self thanks you. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, Jim, discipline sounds like a lot of work. And I will tell you plainly, you are absolutely right. It is work. But here's the question you have to answer for yourself, and answer it honestly. Would you rather do the work now, or would you rather pay the price later? Because I promise you, life always sends a bill. The only question is whether you pay it early, when you have the energy and the time and the capacity to handle it, or whether you pay it late, with interest compounding every single year that you delayed. You see, the universe operates on a law. It is not a suggestion. It is not a guideline. It is a law, as certain and as fixed as gravity. And that law says this: whatever you plant, you will harvest. Whatever you sow into the soil of your days, your weeks, your months, your years, that is precisely what will grow. Plant discipline and you will harvest a life of abundance, of freedom, of achievement, of meaning. Plant laziness, plant indulgence, plant the habit of always choosing the path of least resistance, and I promise you, the harvest will reflect exactly what was planted. There is no escaping it. There is no cheating it. There is no negotiating with it. The law is the law. So the question is not whether you will reap what you sow. The question is, what are you sowing today? Let me take you back to when I was a young man. I was broke. Not just a little short on cash. I mean genuinely, deeply, embarrassingly broke. I had a family to take care of. I had bills I could not pay. I had ambitions that I could not fund. And I had habits that were contributing to absolutely none of my goals. I was doing what most people do. I was reacting to life instead of designing it. I was letting the days happen to me instead of happening to the days. And the result was exactly what you would expect. Chaos, mediocrity, frustration, and a quiet, gnawing sense that life was passing me by while I stood still. Then a man came into my life, Mr. Earl Schoaf, and he asked me a simple question. He said, Jim, how long have you been working? I told him, and then he said, if you keep doing what you've been doing, where do you think you'll be in another few years? And I did not have a good answer, because the truth was, if I kept doing what I had always done, I would keep getting what I had always gotten, and what I had always gotten was not working. That conversation started a revolution inside of me. Not a revolution of information. I did not suddenly learn 10,000 new things. What changed was my commitment. What shifted was my discipline. What transformed was my daily practice. I started paying attention to my days. I started asking myself each evening, did I do what I said I would do today? Did I honor the commitments I made to myself? Did I take one step, even a small step, in the direction of the life I say I want? And here's what I discovered. When you start answering those questions honestly, when you hold yourself accountable to a standard that you set for yourself, something begins to change in you at a deep level. You start to trust yourself. You start to believe that your word, even your word to yourself, means something. And that trust becomes the foundation upon which everything extraordinary in life is built. Because here is what nobody tells you about discipline. They talk about it like it is punishment. They talk about it like it is restriction. They talk about it like it is some grim, joyless, austere way of living where you deny yourself everything that brings pleasure. And they are wrong. Completely and entirely wrong. True discipline is not about denying yourself. It is about designing yourself. It is about choosing who you want to become and then living in alignment with that choice every single day, regardless of how you feel on any particular morning. And let me talk about feelings for just a moment, because this is where most people lose the battle before it ever really begins. Most people are governed entirely by their feelings. They wake up in the morning and they ask themselves, how do I feel today? And if the answer is not good, and if they are tired or unmotivated, or if the weather is gray, or if they did not sleep well, they use that feeling as a permission slip to abandon their responsibilities to themselves. I don't feel like going to the gym. I don't feel like working on my business. I don't feel like studying. I don't feel like making that phone call. And so they don't. and another day passes. Another opportunity dissolves. Another brick that could have been laid in the foundation of their future is left sitting in the mud. Disciplined people are not people who never have bad mornings. They are not people who spring out of bed every day with unlimited energy and a song in their heart. They are people who have made a decision, a real, firm, unshakable decision, that their actions will not be held hostage by their emotions. They have learned to say, I don't feel like it, and I am going to do it anyway. That one sentence, lived out consistently, is worth more than any talent, any privilege, any favorable circumstance that life could provide. Think about the greatest performers in any field, the athletes who win championships, the entrepreneurs who build empires, the artists who create work that moves generations. Do you think they felt motivated every single day? Do you think they never wanted to sleep in, never wanted to take a shortcut, never wanted to walk away from the hard work and choose the easier path? Of course they did. They are human. The difference is not that they never felt the pull toward comfort. The difference is that they did not obey it. They understood something that average people never quite grasp, that motivation follows action, not the other way around. You do not wait to feel motivated before you act. You act, and then the motivation arrives to meet you where you already are. This is the secret that the undisciplined never discover. They are forever waiting for the right moment. They are forever waiting to feel ready. They are forever waiting for circumstances to align perfectly before they begin. And while they wait, time moves. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. Months turn into years. And one day they wake up and realize that the life they imagine for themselves is not the life they are living. And the gap between those two realities is nothing more than the accumulated weight of all the moments they chose to wait instead of act. Do not be that person, please. I am asking you today, with everything I have in me, do not be that person. Now let me speak to you about what discipline actually looks like in practice, because I think a lot of people have a vague, theoretical appreciation for discipline without understanding what it means on the ground level, on the level of an ordinary Tuesday morning when nobody is watching and nothing is at stake except your own future. Discipline looks like this. It looks like keeping the appointment you made with yourself even when you would rather cancel. It looks like finishing the book you committed to reading even when you are tired. It looks like preparing your body, feeding it properly, moving it intentionally, resting it adequately, because you understand that your physical condition is directly connected to the quality of your thinking, your decision-making, your creativity, your energy, and ultimately your results. It looks like managing your time with the same care and attention that a wise person manages money, because you understand that time is the one currency you cannot earn back once it is spent. And it looks like something else, something that many people overlook completely. Discipline looks like controlling the content that enters your mind. Because here is something I have observed over many decades of studying human behavior and human achievement. Show me what a person reads, what they listen to, what they watch, who they spend their time with, and I will show you what that person's future looks like with extraordinary accuracy. Your mind is a garden. Whatever you plant in it will grow. Plant seeds of wisdom, of ambition, of possibility, of excellence, and those things will take root and grow into a life of remarkable quality. But leave the garden unattended. Let anything and everything blow into it on the wind, and weeds will take over. And weeds left unchecked will choke every good thing that was trying to grow. The undisciplined mind is an unguarded gate. Everything gets in. Every negative story from the news, every discouraging comment from people who have never achieved anything worth celebrating, every doubt, every fear, every reason why it cannot be done and why you are not the person to do it. And if you allow all of that to accumulate in your mind without resistance, without intentional counterbalancing with better input, it will eventually persuade you of its version of reality. And its version of reality is always small. It is always limited. It is always less than what you were meant for. Guard your mind. This is not optional. This is not a nice to have. This is a fundamental requirement of anyone who intends to build a life worth living. Now, I want to spend some time on a concept that I believe is the engine underneath all of discipline, and that is the concept of the long game. We live in a culture that worships the immediate. We want results now. We want feedback now. We want gratification now. And because of that cultural pressure, most people have lost the capacity, or perhaps never developed it, to delay gratification, to invest in something that will not pay off until tomorrow, next year, or a decade from now. But here is the reality of how wealth is built. Here is the reality of how meaningful relationships are built. Here is the reality of how genuine expertise is built. Here is the reality of how character is built. All of it, every single thing of lasting value, is built slowly, through consistent effort applied over time. There are no shortcuts. There are no hacks. There are no clever tricks that let you skip the process. You can speed up your learning, you can find mentors who compress your timeline, you can work with incredible intensity and efficiency, but you cannot eliminate the requirement of time, of repetition, of consistent daily effort that compounds quietly in the background while you may not even notice it working. This is the power of compound interest applied to human behavior. When you invest money wisely and leave it alone, something remarkable happens. The interest earns interest. The growth builds upon the growth. What starts as a modest investment becomes over time something extraordinary, not because of any single dramatic event, but because of the quiet, relentless, unspectacular process of compounding. The same principle works for every area of your life. Every book you read adds to your knowledge base, but more than that, it enhances your ability to understand the next book, to see connections between ideas, to apply principles across different domains. Your intellect compounds. Every workout you complete builds your physical capacity, but more than that, it builds your confidence, your mental toughness, your evidence that you can do hard things. Your character compounds. Every honest conversation you have, every promise you keep, every time you show up when it would have been easier not to, your reputation compounds, your relationships compound, your wisdom compounds. And here is the most astounding part. When you live with discipline over years and decades, the compounding accelerates. The gains that seemed invisible in year 1 become undeniable in year 5 and almost incomprehensible in year 10. This is why the disciplined person who starts with nothing often ends up with everything, while the talented, privileged person who never developed discipline often ends up with far less than their natural gifts should have produced. Discipline is the multiplier. It is what takes whatever you have been given and maximizes it. Without it, even great gifts are wasted. With it, even modest gifts can produce extraordinary results. But you have to play the long game. You have to be willing to invest in a harvest you cannot yet see. You have to be the farmer who plants in spring even though the harvest is in autumn, who keeps watering, who keeps tending the soil, who keeps the weeds down even when the crop is not visible above the ground. Because the work that happens underground before anything is visible is the work that determines the quality of everything that eventually surfaces. Most people quit during that underground phase. The results are not there yet. The evidence of their investment has not appeared, and because they cannot see the progress, they conclude that progress is not happening, so they stop. They walk away from the field they planted just weeks or months before the harvest would have arrived, and then they watch someone else, someone who simply had the patience and the discipline to continue, walk into a field they abandoned and reap a harvest that would have been theirs. Do not walk away from your field. Whatever field you are working in right now, whether it is your health, your business, your craft, your finances, your family, do not walk away from it simply because the harvest has not arrived on your preferred timeline. Stay. Keep working. Keep investing. Keep showing up. The harvest is coming. The law guarantees it. The only variable is whether you will still be in the field when it arrives. Now let me address something that I know is on the minds of many of you because I have had this conversation thousands of times in my life, and the objection goes something like this. Jim, I want to be disciplined. I start strong, but I always fall off. I get going for a week or two, and then something happens. I miss a day. I make a mistake. I have a bad week, and then I just lose all the momentum I built, and I'm back to square one. I understand that experience. I understand it deeply, and I want to speak directly to it. First, let me say this. Falling is not failure. Falling is part of the process. Every person who ever built a great life fell down somewhere along the way. They got knocked off course, they had bad weeks, they made poor decisions, they slipped back into old patterns temporarily. The difference between those people and the people who stayed stuck is not that the successful ones never fell. The difference is what they did after they fell. Average people treat a stumble like a verdict. They fall once and they interpret it as evidence that they are not capable, that they are not cut out for this, that the discipline they were attempting was not really for them. And so they use the stumble as a reason to stop altogether. And in doing so, they guarantee the very failure they feared. The disciplined person treats a stumble entirely differently. They fall and they say, that happened, now what do I do next? They do not spend 3 days in self-criticism and self-pity. They do not use the slip as an excuse to abandon the entire endeavor. They get up, they dust themselves off. They identify what went wrong and what can be learned from it, and they take the very next available action in the direction they were already heading. Your ability to recover quickly from setbacks is more important than your ability to avoid setbacks altogether, because you cannot avoid all setbacks. Life will intervene. Circumstances will shift. Energy levels will fluctuate. But your recovery speed, how fast you get back to the path, how quickly you re-engage with your commitments, that is entirely within your control. And the faster you get at recovering, the more resilient you become, the more consistent your results, and the more powerful your discipline. Think of it this way. If you are driving across the country and you take a wrong turn, do you conclude that the journey is over and pull the car to the side of the road? Of course not. You course correct. You get back on the right road, and you keep going. Life is no different. A wrong turn is information, not a death sentence. Use it, learn from it, correct your course, and keep moving. Let me speak now about the environment in which you are trying to build discipline, because this matters far more than most people ever acknowledge. You cannot consistently behave at a high level in an environment that is designed for low-level living. You cannot be consistently disciplined when everything around you is arranged to encourage indiscipline. The people you surround yourself with, the physical spaces you inhabit, the daily rhythms and routines of your life, all of these things are either supporting your discipline or undermining it. There is no neutral. Everything pushes you in one direction or the other. Look at the people closest to you. I am not asking you to judge them. I am asking you to evaluate them honestly. Are they people who are building something? Are they people who take their commitment seriously? Are they people who hold themselves to a standard? Are they people who challenge you, who inspire you, who make you want to be better simply by virtue of what they are doing with their own lives? Or are they people who are comfortable with mediocrity? Are they people who celebrate the decision not to try? Are they people who mock ambition, who call discipline obsession, who normalize laziness and dress it up as wisdom or balance or self-acceptance? Because I will tell you plainly, the people around you will lift your standard or lower it. There is no third option. You are always being influenced by those in your circle, and they are always being influenced by you. This is not a sign of weakness. It is simply how human beings are wired. We are social creatures. We calibrate our behavior to what is considered normal in our tribe, which means if your tribe normalizes excellence, your standard goes up. If your tribe normalizes mediocrity, your standard goes down. Choose your tribe deliberately. Choose people who make excellence feel natural, who make discipline feel like the obvious choice, who remind you by their daily example that the life you want is not a fantasy, but a reasonable expectation for anyone willing to put in the work. Now I know someone will raise their hand and say, but Jim, I cannot just get rid of my family and my old friends. I cannot just rebuild my entire social circle from scratch. And they are right. It is not always that simple or that clean. But here is what you can do. You can be intentional about who gets the most access to your time, your energy, and your mind. You can seek out mentors, in person or through books, who have already walked the path you are trying to walk. You can join communities of people who share your values and your ambitions. You can limit the time you spend with people who consistently drain your momentum. You can protect your standard while still caring for the people in your life who may not yet share it. And here is something important. By lifting your own standard, by becoming more disciplined yourself, you may well inspire someone in your circle to do the same. Your transformation is not a private event. It has a ripple effect. The person you are becoming will touch the lives of people around you in ways you cannot fully anticipate. So do not underestimate the impact of your own growth. It extends far beyond you. Let me now talk about the relationship between discipline and clarity, because I have found that many people lack discipline not because they are weak, but because they lack a clear and compelling vision of where they are going. And without that vision, discipline has no North Star. It has no context. It is just effort for the sake of effort, sacrifice for no apparent purpose. And human beings cannot sustain that for long. We are meaning-making creatures. We need a reason. We need a destination. We need to be able to look at the difficult thing in front of us and say, I know why this is worth it. This is why I have always said that the most important work you can do is the work of developing your vision. Not a vague hope, not a general preference, a specific, detailed, emotionally resonant picture of the life you are working toward. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Who is in it? What kind of person have you become? What have you achieved? What kind of impact have you had? What do your finances look like? Your health, your relationships, your contribution to the world. When you can see that vision clearly, when you can feel it, when it moves something in you, when the mere thought of it lights a fire in your chest, that vision becomes your fuel. It becomes the reason you get up when you would rather stay in bed. It becomes the reason you hold the line when temptation is pulling you in the wrong direction. It becomes the answer to the question your discipline always asks, why? And your why must be strong, because the challenges on the road to a great life are real. The temptations are real. The moments of fatigue and discouragement are real. And only a compelling enough why will sustain you through them. So do not settle for a shallow why. I want more money is not a why. It is a preference. Dig deeper. What would more money allow you to do? What would it mean for your family, your freedom, your ability to contribute? What experiences would it create? What fears would it remove? What possibilities would it open? That is your why. That is what you write down. That is what you return to on the days when discipline feels hard and the destination feels far away. Because here is something the great achievers of every generation have known. The more vivid and powerful your vision, the easier discipline becomes. Not easy in the absolute sense, but easier because you are not fighting against your desires. You are fighting for something that matters more to you than the comfort you are temporarily forgoing. And that shift in framing changes everything. You are not denying yourself. You are investing in yourself. You are not sacrificing for some abstract future payoff. You are choosing the version of your life that will make your future self stand up and say with tears of gratitude, thank you. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for not settling. Thank you for believing in me before I existed. That future self is real. That future self is waiting for you to make the choices today that will bring them into being. And every time you choose discipline over indulgence, every time you hold the line when it would have been easier to let it go, every time you do the work when nobody is watching and nobody is applauding, you are building that person. You are constructing your future self piece by piece, day by day, decision by decision. And here is what I love most about this truth. It means that who you will be in 10 years is not determined by luck. It is not determined by circumstance. It is not determined by what family you were born into or what advantages or disadvantages you started with. It is determined by the choices you make, specifically the small choices, the daily choices, the unglamorous choices that nobody celebrates and most people never even notice. Those are the choices that build a life. Those are the choices that matter most. Let me take a moment to talk about mornings because I believe the morning hours are among the most important hours of the day, and most people squander them. The morning is when you set the tone. The morning is when you establish the direction of the day. What you do in the first hour after you wake up sends a signal to your entire system about what kind of day this is going to be, what kind of person you are, and what kind of life you are building. The undisciplined person wakes up and immediately reaches for their phone. They immerse themselves in other people's stories, other people's opinions, other people's emergencies, before they have had a single moment alone with their own thoughts, their own goals, their own priorities. They begin the day in a reactive posture, already responding to the world before they have had a chance to clarify what they intend to create. And then they wonder why they feel scattered, overwhelmed, and pulled in a dozen directions at once. The disciplined person protects the morning. They use those first hours to invest in themselves, to read, to reflect, to plan, to prepare, to move their body, to strengthen their mind. They begin the day in a proactive posture, already clear on their intentions, already invested in their own development, already ahead of the reactive chaos that will eventually arrive. They set the tone before the tone can be set for them. Now, I am not prescribing a specific morning routine because what works best will vary from person to person. What I'm saying is this: be intentional about the morning. Do not let it happen to you. Happen to it, design it, protect it, invest in it, and watch what that single shift does to the trajectory of your days, your weeks, and ultimately, your life. Let me talk now about the compound effect of small things because I think there is a dangerous tendency in our culture to dismiss anything that seems small. We want the grand gesture. We want the dramatic breakthrough. We want the single decision that changes everything. And while those moments do occur in life, the truth is that the most important changes are almost never dramatic in the moment. They are quiet. They are small. They look completely unremarkable from the outside. Reading 10 pages of a great book every day seems insignificant, but 10 pages a day is over 3,000 pages a year. That is approximately 12 to 15 substantial books annually. Over a decade, that is 150 books, 150 minds you have engaged with, 150 sets of ideas that have expanded your thinking and your perspective. The compound effect of those 10 daily pages is extraordinary, but you will never notice it happening in real time because each day's investment is too small to detect. Only when you look back over years does the magnitude of the effect become visible. The same is true of every small discipline. The glass of water you choose instead of the sugary drink, the hour of exercise you complete 3 times a week, the money you save before you spend instead of after, the relationship you tend to with consistent small acts of care and attention, the skill you practice for 20 minutes each evening. None of these things feel significant in isolation. None of them produce dramatic, visible results tomorrow. But compound them over months and years, and the cumulative effect is staggering. This is why I say, never despise small beginnings. Never dismiss the small daily action as beneath your attention or unworthy of your effort. The small actions done consistently are the most powerful actions available to you. The person who understands this and lives by it will ultimately achieve things that baffle those who were waiting for a big break, a perfect opportunity, or a dramatic moment of transformation that somehow never arrived. Because here is the hard truth about big breaks. They are almost always the product of small, consistent work that happened long before the big break occurred. The overnight success is almost always the result of years of invisible effort. The sudden breakthrough is usually the visible manifestation of 1,000 small breakthroughs that happened quietly, internally, when nobody was watching. The big break finds you because you were ready when it arrived, and you were ready because the small, daily, unglamorous disciplines had prepared you for it. Prepare yourself. Do the work now. Build the readiness before the opportunity arrives, and when it does arrive, and it will, you will not be scrambling to catch up. You will simply step into what you have already built. Now, I want to address something that many disciplined, ambitious people struggle with, and it is the question of rest, because some of you have taken the message of discipline and work ethic to an extreme that is actually working against you. You have confused exhaustion with effort and burnout with dedication, and I want to be clear with you about this. Rest is not the enemy of discipline. Rest is a component of discipline. The intelligent management of your energy, including deliberate rest, deliberate recovery, deliberate stillness, is itself a disciplined act. Your body and your mind are instruments, and instruments require maintenance. A musician who plays their instrument without ever tuning it, without ever caring for it, will eventually find that the music it produces deteriorates. The same is true of you. Your physical health, your mental clarity, your emotional equilibrium, these require investment in rest and recovery. The person who works relentlessly without ever pausing to recover is not being more disciplined than the person who rests strategically. They are being less wise, and eventually the body or the mind will force the rest they were denied, usually at the worst possible moment and in the most disruptive way possible. Sleep enough. Rest enough. Take time to be still, take time to reflect, take time to appreciate what you have already built, to celebrate the progress you have already made, to acknowledge the person you are already becoming. This is not weakness, this is wisdom. And wisdom applied consistently produces results that raw effort alone cannot generate. Now let me bring all of this together by speaking about character, because ultimately everything I have been talking about today is not just about achievement or success or results. It is about character. It is about who you are becoming in the process of building the life you want, because the life you build is only as good as the person doing the building. Many people make the mistake of separating their goals from their character, treating them as if the goal is one thing and who they are is another, but they are not separate. They are deeply, inextricably connected. The goal you can achieve is always limited by the person you currently are, and expanding what you can achieve requires expanding who you are. Discipline is how character is built. Every time you make the disciplined choice, every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you are doing something that extends far beyond the specific action you took. You are adding a layer to the bedrock of your character. You are deepening your integrity. You are expanding your capacity. You are building the kind of inner foundation that can support an extraordinary life without cracking under the weight of it. Because some people achieve great success, wealth, fame, power, influence, and then lose it all. And when you look at those cases closely, what you almost always find is that the achievement outpaced the character. They built the life faster than they built themselves. And when the life became heavy, when the responsibilities multiplied, when the pressure intensified, when the challenges escalated, the character underneath was not strong enough to bear the weight. Build the character first. Build it intentionally, through disciplined action, through honoring your word, through choosing excellence in the small things before you ever have to perform in the large things. Build it layer by layer, day by day, choice by choice. And when the great opportunities and the great challenges arrive, and they will arrive, you will be ready. Not just strategically ready, not just technically ready, but character ready. And that is the deepest readiness of all. Your future self, the person you will be 10, 20, 30 years from now, is shaped by the character you are building right now. And your character is built through your disciplines, which means who you are disciplined to be today is who you will be tomorrow. The habits you maintain, the standards you hold, the choices you make when comfort is calling and discipline is demanding. Those are the building blocks of your future self. And your future self is watching, not literally, of course, but in every meaningful sense. The consequences of your choices today will be experienced by the person you are becoming. If you invest wisely, that future self will inherit a life of extraordinary richness. If you spend recklessly, not just financially, but with your time, your energy, your attention, your health, your relationships, that future self will inherit the debt. Every undisciplined day is a loan against your future. And the interest on that loan compounds just as surely as the gains from discipline compound. So make the investment, make the disciplined choice, again and again and again. Not perfectly. You will not always get it right, and that is not the standard anyway. The standard is not perfection. The standard is consistent, intentional effort, maintained over time with the resilience to recover quickly from the inevitable stumbles along the way. Think about what your life looks like 5 years from now if you commit, starting today, to living with genuine discipline. Not dramatically, not all at once, but consistently. Honoring your commitments to yourself, protecting your mind, Tending to your health, investing in your knowledge, managing your time with care, choosing long-term benefit over short-term comfort day after day after day. 5 years of that, imagine it. The knowledge you would have accumulated, the skills you would have developed, the relationships you would have built with people who share your values and your commitment, the financial position you would be in, the physical condition of your body, the depth and clarity of your thinking, the confidence that comes not from telling yourself you are capable, but from proving it to yourself repeatedly through action. That life is available to you. It is not reserved for someone else. It is not beyond your reach. It is not contingent on luck or circumstance or being born into the right family or knowing the right people. It is contingent on your choices, your daily, ordinary, unglamorous choices. That is all. That is everything. And your future self, that version of you who has lived 5 years of genuine discipline, who has shown up consistently when it mattered, who has invested rather than spent, who has built rather than waited, that future self will look back at this moment, at this day, at this conversation, and they will feel gratitude, real, deep, sustaining gratitude. Not the gratitude of someone who was lucky, the gratitude of someone who chose well, the gratitude of someone who did the hard work before it was obvious that the hard work was necessary, the gratitude of someone who trusted the process before they could see the results. That is what I'm asking you to build. Not just a better bank account, not just a healthier body, not just a more successful career. I'm asking you to build a life that you are proud of, a life that reflects your best self, your most committed self, your most disciplined self, a life that you will look back on with satisfaction rather than regret, a life that makes your future self stand up and say with every ounce of gratitude in their being, thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for doing the work when it was hard. Thank you for choosing me, the person you were becoming, over the momentary comfort that was always easier in the short run. That is what discipline does. That is what it builds. That is what it produces. Not just in your bank account, not just in your body, not just in your career, but in your soul, in the quiet confidence of a person who knows who they are and what they stand for, in the unshakable foundation of a character built through years of disciplined choices, in the peace of mind that comes from knowing that you gave your best, consistently, even when nobody was watching, even when it was hard, even when the results were not yet visible. That peace is not something you can buy. You cannot find it in a shortcut. You cannot manufacture it through some clever trick or life hack. It is only earned. It is earned through the long, slow, patient, consistent work of a disciplined life. And it is available to every person in this room who is willing to pay the price. Not the price of sacrifice, but the price of commitment. The commitment to your own future. The commitment to the person you are capable of becoming. Let me close with this thought. Years from now, I do not know when, I do not know what circumstances you will be in, I do not know what the world will look like, but years from now, you will look back at your life and you will see it clearly in a way that you cannot always see it in the middle of living it. You will see the turning points. You will see the moments when you made choices that mattered. You will see the periods when you were building and the periods when you were coasting, and you will feel the weight of those choices in a way that only hindsight can reveal. I want you to look back at this period of your life, in this chapter right now, and then see it as the chapter when you decided, when you made the choice, when you drew a line and said, from this day forward, I will be the kind of person whose future self is grateful. I will be so disciplined, so consistent, so intentional, so committed to the person I am becoming that the life I build will be worthy of the gift of the time I was given. That is the decision I am inviting you to make today. Not a decision to be perfect, not a decision to never struggle, not a decision that removes all difficulty or guarantees ease, but a decision to engage fully, consciously, and with great discipline in the construction of a life that matters, a life that reflects your potential, a life that produces a harvest worthy of the seeds you plant, a life that makes your future self not just content, but profoundly, deeply, genuinely grateful. Be so disciplined that your future self thanks you. That is the work. That is the commitment. That is the life I believe you are capable of building. And I hope, with everything that I have, that you will choose to build it. Thank you.